that soaked her dress. Feeling faint and unsteady, she stopped cleaning and sat on the narrow bed at the back of the cabin. It was scarcely big enough for the two of them, especially when John tossed and turned in his sleep, which he did most nights. But even when he lay quiet, she squeezed herself against the rough mud wall and prayed to be released from her life. She ran her hand over the cradle at the foot of the bed. John had built it during a late winter blizzard that kept them inside for 3 days. He spent time working on the cradle until the storm broke and the weather cleared, joining the wood perfectly and rubbing it smooth to the touch. He wanted no splinters or rough edges to harm the baby boy he hoped to see sleeping there. Never had he made anything so nice for her. When the storm passed, it took a week to count their losses. In the bone-cold days that followed, harsh northern winds blew across the vast West Texas plains, exposing the dead animals buried under snowdrifts. To Mary Alice, the grotesque, frozen carcasses scattered across the land was a scene from Hades. As the carcasses thawed, the wolves, coyotes, vultures, and crows congregated to feast. The screeching and squealing of the feeding animals, their howls, yips, and caws, made her uneasy and fretful. Outside the cabin, the stray dog John had found on the open range started barking again. Mary Alice didn't bother to get up to see what had set it off. It barked all the time at nothing. John let it sleep in the cabin, and most mornings it left a mess that had to be cleaned up before she started breakfast. She kept hoping a coyote or wolf would make a meal of it, but it stayed close to the cabin, barking, barking, barking. She hated that dog. John had given it a name, but Mary Alice refused to remember it. More than once she'd considered shooting it, burying it far away from the cabin where John wouldn't find it, and telling him it had run away. She absent-mindedly caressed the cradle again, trying to remember what she'd been thinking about. Ever since the 5th month of carrying the baby, she'd felt deathly tired. Her legs ached from morning to night, and she had constant pains in her back. The heat of late summer days, with not a trace of rain for weeks, had worn down her thin, small-boned frame even more. The baby had kicked hard all day, but suddenly shifted and stopped moving about the time she'd started dusting. Although her water hadn't broken yet, earlier she'd sent John to fetch his sister-in-law, Ida, to help with the delivery. The angle of the sun through the open door told her they should arrive soon. She wasn't looking forward to having the baby. She had tried hard to match John's happiness over the prospect of a son, if it was to be a boy, but secretly she felt no attachment to it. Living on the empty, lonely Texas plains had carved a hole inside of her. She forced herself to act glad, but it was all make-believe. She didn't fear childbirth. She'd seen her mother and an older sister go through it and knew what to expect. The baby would come when its time was due. It would be painful, bloody, and she would be sore for days, but that was simply the way of it, and nothing could be done to change it. What she fretted over and feared the most was the stark reality that she had no interest in the child at all. Was she mad? Daft? She dreaded the rest of her life. The dark cabin, the empty world outside, the endless work with little sleep, caring for John and the baby day in and day out, the possibility of more children. She had tried repeatedly to make the baby real in her mind in the hopes that she could learn to love it. She thought about nursing it, caring for it, dressing it, playing with it, teaching it. But her indifference never went away. She closed her eyes and tried to picture a happy baby, but all she could think of was how big and uncomfortable her breasts felt, how alien her body had become. She didn't like it at all. She opened her eyes and looked through the door at the small barn John had built after he'd finished the cabin. She'd begged him to put it where she could see it from the door so that it broke the emptiness of the West Texas plains and enormous, never-ending horizon.